Hi, welcome to Frederick's Garage, your favorite location for the eradication of oxidation on your restoration of your transportation, and home of the Bel Airror, the resto-mod with the rusto-bod. Today, we're working on fender skirt tabs, not the tabs on the skirt themselves, but on models that came from the factory with fender skirts. These tabs that are welded to the inner fender that help position the skirt, keep it from moving in towards the wheel. They are mostly present here on the driver's side of the vehicle, but they're completely absent from the passenger side of the vehicle that I'm rebuilding. So in this video, I'm going to measure and fabricate new tabs and install them. So stick around. So here I am under the car trying to make up these tabs that keep the fender skirt from moving inward towards the wheel. Here's the perspective. So I've taken some measurements, drawn some diagrams, need to know, or I've figured out these are 16 gauge. And what I'm gonna do is take this piece of metal here and bend it to the rough shape, the up, over, and back down shape, so I can begin to try and form these out of some stock. So let me get on that. So here's the diagram or the data that I've captured. And there's the strip of 20 gauge that I'm gonna use to form the rough shape as a template. Yeah, we'll learn how to work the camera. And there are my bending implements. I also have this legacy template that shows me the shape of the wheel well. This is the bottom part of the fender lip, and this is the innermost part with the angle that the skirt touches. So the skirt touches here and here. These clamps, once I make them, they weld in like that. Maybe clamps isn't the right word, but tabs. So in any case, I'll be using this part of this template later, but right now I need to get the J shape properly. So here's what I have so far. I've got this lower bend here from this template. And then under the car, I've got the approximate shape of the tab. I mean, obviously this isn't to scale, but this is kind of what I'm after. And obviously this piece is longer than it needs to be. So let me just show you under the car how this shapes up. And then we'll see what we can do about forming this. Obviously, according to this diagram, the tab is wider. It's a good 1.25 inches wide, while this is maybe 3/8 wide. And then of course there's a base which is 2.5 inches wide, which I haven't begun to worry about the base just yet. So let me show you under the car and we'll try and figure the next steps on this. So here we are, of course, under the car. Let's fit up this piece. So the base to the original piece is there and it's 16 gauge. So I've set this so that it's a little taller than that. In fact, if I pull it over, I can feel that this would almost ride on top of that. And looks like we've got the angle pretty close. We just don't have the length. So let me see what I can do about roughing that out in 16 gauge. I know 16 gauge is going to be kind of tough to bend, but now that I have a pretty good template, maybe I can use the brake, and that should help us out. Not quite sure what to do about the base. Do I weld tabs, just make this tab and then weld extensions on for the base, or do I bend the whole thing up and then cut it just to get this center section? So I'm just not sure yet. So according to the diagram, these things have a 2.5 inch base, and I need to make 2 of them. And look at this piece of 16 gauge I have is 5 inches wide. So I'm gonna try and do the lower bends on both of them and then cut this in half if I'm successful with the lower bends. So I've marked where I want the bends. So like that and like that. And frankly, I'm not sure if my brake can even handle 16 gauge. So this is a real crapshoot. I'm gonna do this outer bend first. So first thing I'll do is, yeah, actually it's bending it this way. So I'll put that bend in and then I'll pull it back and I'll put the second bend in. And then of course, this loop I'm gonna have to figure out, but I'll be working with a much smaller piece at that point. In fact, maybe I'll gouge out the rough tab at that point. So I guess this is proof of concept. I have enough metal that if I screw this up, I can try it over, try a different method. Let's see how we make out. Well, my brake is strong enough to bend 16 gauge, but not accurate enough to put that, I don't know what the correct term would be, maybe compound bend. So I think this might be close enough though. Let me figure out how to hold this so I can show you what I mean. So while I didn't get this fine double bend in there, what I think I have here, let me try and get this properly. I think that overall shape is compatible with the inside of the wheel well. Same on the other side also. So the piece I'm trying to make, which is this, oops. So this part would mount into the wheel well. This part would go up and then back down towards the fender skirt, towards the ground. So same sort of thing, same basic shape as long as it fits in the wheel well. In fact, I could trim this edge down a little bit and have it fit in a little bit further if it won't set nicely against that inner edge, if you will. So once again, the lip of the wheel well, the innermost lip of the wheel well is right here. And then of course the tab goes up and then back down, roughly that shape. So we might be able to pull that off. Let me see what I can do. Guess maybe now I figure out how much length I need and then cut this in half and maybe try and whittle out the individual tabs. Still prototype, proof of concept, but so far so good, I suppose. So using the dimensions I captured earlier, here are the two tabs mocked up. I'm going to cut the piece off about here. I'm going to cut the piece off about here, where I think the actual length of the tab is closer to here. And you can see where the bend would be. And then I have a ridge there, so I'm going to have to hammer that from the outside. So basically, the base of each tab will be this big, and then you can see the basic shape of the tab, and then where I have to hammer the ridge, and then where I need to bend the thing, put the J-bend in it. And working against the template, this is about how it looks. There's the J-bend. This comes up here. You can see that's roughly the edge of the tab. The ridge is going to be proud on this side. So anyway, that's the plan. Better start cutting and shaping. I've clamped a piece of heavy stock here to help guide the cutting wheel. I think this is probably about 10 gauge. It feels thicker than 14, maybe it's 12 gauge. Anyway, that should help guide the cutting wheel, give me a cleaner, squarer cut there. So we're over here at the quarter panel to do a sanity check. So here is this piece, just shows the shape of the fender lip and the edge of the wheel well. And then this is our mocked up tab, and our tabs fit in like this, and then of course you'll hang down and support the fender skirt. So the mock-up is about right. So now, here are our two perspective tab blanks. So you can see that one fits there okay. And this one, I'm sorry, it fits up at this end okay. And let's just check the other one. The other one fits here okay. And fits up this way okay. So far so good. We got some more trimming and shaping to do, but I'd have to say we're on the right track. So I have everything trimmed and ground and filed, and I started to beat the divot in, the bevel, the ridge in on the jaws, open jaws of a vise. You can see it's mostly there. What I need to do though is put a little bit of a 90 or 45 right about here, make it more of a defined ridge instead of a gentle curve. Anyway, we're getting close. Obviously the tab's a little longer than it needs to be, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. I've straightened the edges of the ridge out a bit. Of course, that's brought the ridge down a bit. I compared it to what's on the car, and the ridge needs to be a little deeper. So I'll narrow the jaws of the vise a little bit and try and poke that in a little deeper. That ridge is looking a lot better. Pretty clean. Let's see. Looks pretty close to the original. So I formed the second one of these. That would be this one here. And ironically, it was more work and didn't turn out as well as the first one. You can see more hammer marks on it and everything. But you can see that the two are compatible. They fit together reasonably tightly, regardless of the angle. So I'd say they're equivalent. So the next step is to decide where and how to make the J-bend. So we'll figure that out shortly. As far as putting the ridges in here, I opened the jaws of a vise, set the flat piece in there, and I beat on it repeatedly with this pointed body hammer. And up in this corner here, I did hit it a little bit with the ball peen, and as you saw, the flanges weren't perfectly flat. So once I had the ridge, I put the piece in like that and hit in this direction to bring the flange edges a little flatter. And in cases where it was a little too proud, I did put the piece in like that just to flatten the ridge out a little bit. Then I dropped it on the floor, and that completed the process. There you have it. So I'm going to cheat a little bit on this. I'm going to use the torch to heat this up to bend, because with the ridge in there, it's really not going to want to cold bend nicely. So I have it placed in the vise using one of these, I guess, old lawnmower blades or attachments. I think it's off an old Jacobson or something, to use as a fulcrum for the bend. I've aligned the bend carefully with the piece here, the template. So I'm confident that's where it needs to be. Obviously the thickness of this material is a little thicker than this, so it's a guesstimate best case, but it's not exactly engine level tolerances, so a little bit of wiggle room is probably safe. I have this piece of garage junk to beat against, and a couple of different sized hammers to, hopefully drive it home. I would suggest that if you're going to try and cold bend this, maybe cut a slit in the ridge and then bend it over and then weld the slit up. So without the ridge there, I think this would bend pretty easily. Of course, the originals have the ridge all the way through, even on the bend. So probably they used a multi-ton press to stamp these things out. So I'm just trying to synthesize that as best as I can. So let's light the torches and see what happens. Okay, well, we got the first part of the bend in there. Gonna have to reclamp that in the vise. All right, well, here's the second part of the plan. We'll rely on the vise itself and see how we make out. So far, let's get our template here. So far, so good with the bend. Oh well, I think the gravity is a little stronger on that piece. But yeah, let's just try closing the vise, see how much closer we can get it. A little bit of torch again. A little sparkle wrench, little heat persuader. Yeah, that's a ticket. Using a number 3 tip, trying to get a neutral flame here. Let's try and heat this evenly so it bends evenly. Okay, that's the way we like it. Okay, here we go. Let's see how we do. Oh boy, look at that. Almost like a General Motors press. Oops. We don't want to tease it. Let's get our template on there before it gets too much cooler. Have to bend it a little farther than we want it so it springs back. Boy, we're getting awful close right there. I'd say that's about right. So let's let that cool down. So let's check our results. Things are a little bit warm, so I hold it with the vice grips here. Hopefully that shows up on camera. So if I put the template underneath, obviously the ridge is a little lower. The angle looks like it's about right. If I put the template on top, obviously the ridge is a little higher, but the angles are looking really good. Same with the other side. Try not to burn my fingers here. That still is a little bit hot. So you can see, the template's a little higher than the ridge there. Of course, the thickness of the new tab accounts for that. Let's put it underneath, and pretty doggone close, so I think we're spot on. And like I said, this isn't a bearing tolerance or end play or anything like that on a precision machine. This is just a freaking fender skirt tab. So let me try and bend the other one up the same way. Hopefully I can have a matched pair, and then we can get them the next step further, trimming them down and the like. Probably what I'll do too is try them out on the new quarter panel. Maybe mock up the new quarter panel, hold these up against the wheel well with the fender skirt in place, and see how they are before I go any further. Just one more view. If I hold these two pretty much in the same plane, you can see that they're very close. And let's try that on the other aspect. Oops. Yeah, look at that. Pretty doggone close. So I'm back up under the driver's side, got the fender skirt in place. Here's the original tab. Here's the one I just bent. And let's compare. So obviously I'm out here where the inner lip is clear, because the base of this one runs all the way out to here. So yeah, the tab touches the rubber on the fender skirt. I think it could be bent in a little more possibly, but I think it's pretty doggone close. I think it would serve the purpose even if I don't adjust it further. But let me get it mocked up on the passenger side, which is where it's going to live. And just for comparison's sake, let's put our pattern up there. Actually, our pattern looks like that could bend in a little further. In fact, What I did do is I cold bent this on the vise just a little bit further before I put it up under here, just to tighten that bend up a little bit. So it does bend cold, squeezing it this way in the vise. Anyway, don't know if I want to squeeze it further. Certainly could before I install it, or could probably beat on it and move it a little bit once it's installed. But in any case, let's mock it up on the proper side and see. So when I first put this up there, the gap was just too big. I've gotten it a little bit tighter by bending this angle slightly, but it's still too far away, too far out from the fender skirt. So I've bent the template accordingly. So the template, sorry about the shadow there, let's try it this way. So the template piece is fitting pretty well, and of course front and back. So I use the angles on the template to change the angles on the piece before I form the second piece. So let me get on that. This is, of course, on the passenger side of the vehicle, which is where these tabs are going to end up. So I've changed this angle here a little bit just to start. You can see how it differs from the other piece a little bit. And the template, which should be pretty close to matching up, you can see that has a completely different tack at the beginning. So I need to make this first bend here, the one I did on the brake, I need to make that a bit more vertical. So let me try and cold bend that on the vise. There's no ridge there, so I should be able to pry and beat and change that shape a little bit right on the vise. Well, as luck would have it, the front one, while it's dialed in, doesn't fit the back. The back has a different curve. So I've modified the template to cover the back, the rear tab position on the new quarter panel. And what I'm going to do is address this bend here to get it to more closely match the template before I put the J curve in it. So you can see it starts out a little too gentle of an angle, needs to start out a little steeper. So we'll correct that on the vise, and then we'll figure out where to put the J bend in. Always something, isn't it? So we've done a gentle bend in the vise, and looks like that first angle is a little closer to where it needs to be. Looks like the mark for the J bend is about right. So we'll use that and repeat the process with the torch to get the initial J bend in there. So we've got the first bend consistent with the template. So I've got it wedged in the vise this way. I'm going to put some more heat into it and bend it most of the rest of the way with the strength of the vise. So let's get the torch going again, get this cherry red, and bend that sucker down. It's just cooling down now, and you can see that it's pretty close to the shape of the template. So once that's cold enough to touch, we'll try it on under the car. So I've marked where the tabs go on the inner fender well. So I'm gonna just tack them in front and back, and just put a little tack along the edge here, just in case, ultimately I'll plug weld them, but just wanna triple check the location, and then of course, so I plug weld them, that could affect how the edge of the wheel well matches up to the quarter panel. So what I'll do is drill the plug weld holes in the quarter panel, make sure the fender well lip is close enough that I can weld nicely. And once everything's lined up good, then I'll follow up with the plug welds here, so I don't commit, because plug welds are tough to drill out. I also cut these to length, so they might still be a little long. I may grind them a teeny bit shorter on the car, but this is pretty close to the desired length. So let's get them tacked in, get this back up on the car, and see how the skirt fits. So here are the two tabs fully installed, plug welded. I'm about ready to weld this center section in now. So just the final fit up. Passenger side of the car, of course, and everybody's happy. Looks like a win.